Hello, today I'm going to talk a little bit about the brain basics of self-regulation. If you're joining for the first time, welcome. I'm Dr. Burrows, child psychologist, also boy mom, and I'll be covering lots of topics that are relevant for working with children and also with adults. But I mentioned before the 3 basics of self-regulation, what it is, why it's important, and how to do it. Today I wanted to cover just a little bit about what is going on inside our brains and your child's brain and bodies when they have a meltdown, and another reason why self-regulation is so important. So I'm going to try to keep it very basic because sometimes the brain and our nervous system can get really complex. But there are a couple different parts of our nervous system. We have our autonomic nervous system, ANS, and that is our basic survival nervous system. It regulates us to be able to protect ourselves, breathing, movement, everything to get out of the way if there's some kind of danger. So what happens is our baseline is we're calm, cool, and collected. And then there's some kind of trigger or cue, which back in the caveman days could be an animal, somebody coming to attack us. That then triggers our sympathetic nervous system, or SNS. That is our fight, flight, freeze response. A lot of people know what that is, have experienced that maybe when they get really nervous or they've had something very scary happen to them. And then if that is prolonged enough, like it keeps persisting, then we could hit the point of no return, which some of you may have seen, and that is what we call a meltdown. And that's when there is no processing going on. We see, young kids do it, but adults do it too. Older kids do it, and you could just tell you've lost them. It's almost like I hear parents say, like, they zone out, they can't get through to them. They almost have to physically hold them to keep them from thrashing or hurting themselves or throwing things. So that is if you hit that threshold because the trigger's been going on too long. Typically, for most of us, when our sympathetic nervous system or our fight, flight, freeze response gets kicked in, once the threat is over, then our parasympathetic nervous system, that's like the recovery process, kicks back in. Well, for a lot of kids, they never are at baseline. So that means the calm, what most of us are at, calm, cool, collected, able to think straight. There's a lot whose nervous systems are just, they're never there. So they're in a constant state of arousal and recovery. So kind of trigger, recovery, and they're kind of like bouncing around that threshold. And then sometimes then you see the point of no return. And if I hear parents telling me like they're constantly moving, their emotion, it's like their brains are going faster than their bodies. One thing happens and then just haul off and hit someone, and then it's like they don't even remember it. That's probably a sign that, they're in that constant state. So the good news is there is a way to open that window at the threshold, but that comes from active practice of self-regulation. And by active practice, that means at least a minimum of 5 times a day to stop and do some kind of sit for a minute and do some kind of breathing work. The reason why we talk about breathing and stopping and mindfulness is because what has been found is that by sitting still in total silence for a short amount of time, it activates that autonomic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system 90 times faster than what the system can really do. But man, I'm sure some of you are thinking how on earth am I gonna do that 5 times a day and get my kid to just stop and sit still? Yeah, I know. But I'd like to ask, how much time right now are you spending on meltdowns and trying to get your kid back on track? If you're not sure, just track it. Track how much time you're spending a day. It adds up, trust me. Things take a lot longer once they hit that point of no return, and who knows when they'll get back on track. So investing a little bit of time, again, like a minute here, a minute there, and putting it into your schedule. Okay, we're up, we're gonna brush our teeth, and we're gonna stop, and we're gonna breathe. There's a couple apps that are really good that have a breathing counter. Any ones that incorporate sounds that switch from different sides. Sometimes if you have earphones on, that can work really good too, because they have some that do bilateral sounds, which go from right to left, and that works the brain hemisphere, right and left. But anything, I mean, even a basic breathing counter for 1 minute can help. So my recommendation is try to build it into the routine of things that you are already doing every single day. I use this one for adults, like, because I'm a coffee drinker. So when I wake up in the morning and I start the coffee pot to let it get warmed up, that is my practice time. Just stop for a minute and be still and do some 4-count breathing. It could be, all right, we are at the bus stop, we're gonna breathe. Okay, we got home from school, we're gonna breathe. Get to dinner, we're gonna stop and we're gonna breathe. And it is really important. We call this, building it into a sensory friendly diet. So think about it. This is really going to be helping, because how often do the kids really get to sit still? I know in school, which is, another reason why they have so much trouble sitting still for long times at school. But we're not asking them to sit at a table and do schoolwork. We're just asking them to freeze. They could be standing up. You can make a game out of it. Simon Says this is a good one. Okay, let's freeze. And get them to stop and pay attention and just slow down for a minute. So that is a little bit about self-regulation and our nervous system. And I hear all the time, it is really hard to understand, like, why are my kids, why are they not getting it? We've explained it, we've talked to them about, that's not the right thing to do, but they're not processing the information when they've been triggered. And anything can really trigger nowadays because they're not at that baseline. So we really want to open that window, and we want to practice a minimum 5 times a day. I will be doing more to come on specific practice and apps and how to help your kids. Thank you and have a great day. See you soon. And don't forget, if you want to stay up to date on new topics and the skills I'm teaching, hit subscribe. Thanks.